What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of, I think my mic's back now. What's up, guys? A little bit of a false start there. Welcome back to another episode of the MMA show, presented, of course, by Run Fear Sports. I'm hosting today, talking UFC 265. I'm Draftcheat and joined, as always, by my two buddies, JoeyWerk and Titletown. Joey, how you doing on this Saturday?
Good. I'm excited for this card. We got a lot of closely lined fights, which has been, not the norm as of late. So a lot of pick'em. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think a pretty good card. Like you mentioned, a lot of closely lined fights. A lot of lighter weight fighters, I think, going. So we might see, more decisions than usual. But I'm sure we'll have our fair share of spectacular finishes as well. Title, what's going on, man?
What's up, DC? It's nice to get on the show with you again. We were hammering out a lot of baseball shows. Something with the scheduling got you moved and stuff. So haven't seen you in a while, but always nice talking to you. Love these Saturday shows, breaking down some fights. And I mean, what a card! 13 fights. Everyone loves watching Derek Lewis in the main event. Cyril Gane. I mean, what a streak he's been on in front of fans. That's my favorite part of pay-per-views too. We get the fans back. So hopefully the only downside is the judges. And like you said, a lot of these fights are a good amount of them are supposed to go to decision. Hoping not as many as they're supposed to be, but should be a lot of bangers. Very good matchmaking. Bantamweights. I mean, a lot of good bantamweight bangers. So I'm excited to break them down and talk some fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have fans back. I would say enjoy it while you can. Might not be the case for too much longer here. We'll see. Hopefully it stays there. And I will say, if you're playing DFS especially, we're going to talk DFS and betting both on the show. But, we are seeing COVID kind of pop up in all the sports. So, early on when UFC came back kind of in the, back in 2020, we saw – it seemed like, a fight or two canceled like almost every card. And I wouldn't be shocked if we have a cancellation here. So especially if you're playing DFS, do pay attention to that because you can't enter your lineups after lock. And you'll want to get those guys out of there. That could happen, anytime all the way up to lock. So just a warning on that. Hopefully we get all 13 fights, but do pay attention if you're playing DFS. With that, let's jump into the fights. Again, we will talk both the DFS and betting. Titletown from the DFS side, JoeyWerk talking betting, and I'll chime in when necessary. We'll go from the first fight of the night all the way up to the main event, of course. So first fight of the night is one of the bigger favorites on the card. Johnny Munoz coming in right around -300 against Jamie Simmons. I'll throw it to you right away. JoeyWerk, what do you see here from a betting perspective?
Yeah, so Munoz like -300 favorite. Both these guys, second UFC fight. And then Munoz did lose to Nate Maness, his first fight out there via decision. He did attempt 16 takedowns in this fight. He was only successful on 2 of them. I'm pretty sure, he had finished every fight prior to joining the UFC, but his level of competition, obviously not great. A lot of his wins via submission. He is a black belt in BJJ, and he's a solid wrestler. How does it translate in the UFC? Obviously, it's shown in his first fight. It's not as easy. But then the question marks basically arise in his stand-up, but he should have somewhat improved there. Simmons, again, another guy. This is only his second UFC fight. He did get knocked out in his first one via head kick. He's only had 10 total fights, 2 of them only escaping the first round. So this guy, obviously cardio is definitely in question here. And his level of competition, again, not the best. He was a wrestler in college, pretty damn good on the ground himself, throws a lot of kicks, very unorthodox with his striking. I think this one can easily become a wrestling match if either of them wants it to. With that said, I'm not going to lay -300 with Johnny Munoz in a wrestling match. I think he probably wins, but I'm not going to bet this fight.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. -300, just too much for me there as well. Title, interested to hear your thoughts from a DFS perspective, because we do know Munoz, I mean, it seems like he's going to try to get this fight to the ground with the, MMA. DraftKings changed their DFS scoring, about a year ago now, maybe something like that. And we see fighters that get the control time and that throw strikes when they are controlling can rack up points in a hurry and can even get there in a decision, right? They can get on the optimal lineup even in a decision win. That didn't really used to be the case in the old scoring. So interested to hear your thoughts on Munoz. He is expensive, 9,100. Simmons coming in at 7,100, but I do think Munoz kind of has a path to a big score here. So Interested to hear, if you're going to be overweight on these guys to kick off the card.
Yeah, you said it absolutely perfect. I mean, if we look at Johnny Munoz's last fight, it was a controversial decision too. He did get a point taken off from low blows. I mean, I think the judges got it wrong. Personally, again, he had over 10 minutes of control time, 49 significant strikes, 2 takedowns, and he scored 63 points in a loss. You add 30 points onto that, that's 93 points right there. And this fight's minus 190 to finish inside the distance. I think Simmons is the wrestler, but do you want to go to the ground with Johnny Munoz in this? His grappling, I think, is very, very good. And I just think he's going to, whether he's on his back, whether he's on top, I just don't think Simmons is going to has the grappling defense to do it to Munoz. And on the feet, neither of these guys really want to be on the feet too much. I expect it to get on the mat, which is fights you want to target.
Yeah.
I just think, Johnny Munoz has gotten steam throughout the week. I see him sitting at minus 335 right now. I would definitely agree with Joey where I wouldn't bet that fight. But for DFS, I think Munoz gets it done, and I think Munoz actually gets it done by submission. You can get that at minus 110. I don't see value in that really for betting. I mean, you're betting even money a little bit. I mean, laying some juice on a submission. So I don't do that for betting, but for DFS at 9,100, I think he gets it done. I think he does get the sub. A lot of control time, some takedowns, some reversals, anything on the ground that I think a fighter is going to win, I'm going to have exposure to, and Johnny Munoz is no different. So upper tier is loaded, and there's a couple guys I really like, and he's one of the guys I'm going to get a lot of exposure to. I'm not going to have any Simmons either. You got to fade guys that you don't think are going to win. If he does win, yeah, he'll score pretty good, but we make stands on this. I know a lot of people watching these shows only make a couple lineups. I wouldn't have any Simmons if you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of interest in Johnny Munoz from a DFS perspective. I mean, even in that first fight, like you mentioned, ultimately was scored a loss. But 10 over almost 11 minutes of control time in a 3-round fight is impressive. And then, you mentioned the 49 significant strikes. I would add he threw 129 total strikes. So, over half of those were ruled not significant, but that can kind of change scoring to scoring, right? Fight to fight. So, that's a really low percentage of his total strikes to be ruled significant. So if those, if he had 80 or 85 significant strikes in that fight, he would have scored even better. So I guess just kind of underscoring the point that Munoz could have a big score here. I think if this fight goes his way, we all three kind of expect it to. So, if you're playing one lineup, I think he's a good way to start it off the card. And if you're playing multiple, I would certainly get some Johnny Munoz in there. I'm with you. No Jamie Simmons for me. Let's go on to the next fight. Melissa Gatto and Victoria Leonardo. Interested to hear your thoughts on Gatto. Joey, she hasn't fought, I believe, in 3 years now, and then is jumping right into the UFC, which is interesting, right? You don't usually see that. You usually got to kind of win a fight on a lower circuit to kind of get the invite to the UFC. So I don't know her story. She looks like she probably has pretty good jiu-jitsu. She looked like she was in pretty phenomenal shape, frankly, at the weigh-in. 6 years younger than Leonardo. Looks like a 5-inch reach advantage. So, I'm kind of interested to see what we've got from Gatto, because she obviously has kind of a little bit of a different background here and not having fought in 3 years. So how much do you know about her, and what are your thoughts on this fight overall? Because right now it is lined as a pick-em, and, I haven't been that impressed by Leonardo, frankly. So I'm interested in Gatto here, depending on kind of what you have to say about her.
Yeah, so last time she fought, September 2018, she did get a USADA suspension. This is obviously, as you mentioned, her first fight in the UFC, but she did pull out of her previous 3 scheduled UFC fights. So she was scheduled 3 of them. She was scheduled. One of them was COVID, and the other 2 she pulled out. So
okay, well, that's a bit concerning.
Yeah, there were definitely tougher matchups in this one. But
why did she pull out of the other ones? Do you know?
One time she was definitely hurt, and I think she claimed to be hurt the other 2 times, but she is undefeated, has won 4 of her 6 fights via submission. She did beat, UFC caliber fighter in Carol Rosa her last time out, who has been pretty impressive as of late. But she was losing that fight. If you go watch that fight, she was losing almost entirely that fight. Her striking's not great. Her wrestling and BJJ is really good. I expect her to try to get it to the ground. Yeah. And she's been proven to be pretty good on her back as well. But Leonard is a purple bet in BJJ herself. Pretty good in her stand-up, too. She throws a lot of power. Her striking defense is the problem. But obviously the other side, the striking's not great. So she has continued, she gets hit. She keeps her hands down, gets hit, and then, gets slashed on the feet at times. But a lot of late money has come on Leonardo. So now this is basically a pick 'em. Low-level women's MMA. If you know me, I really don't like to bet these, but I definitely lean towards Melissa Gatto here. She, the younger person, definitely has a lot of potential here. And if you bet her, rather than take the money line, I prefer to take her by sub. You could probably get plus 200 via sub or decision. And if your book has double chance, just take via sub or via decision because she's probably not going to knock her out. More than likely, she's not knocking her out. So, but being that she hasn't fought in 3 years, getting locked in the octagon, I can't bet this fight.
Yeah, understandable. That's what I kind of had written down here too. I had by submission ? Because that was kind of my thoughts here. It seems like that's her most likely path to success. Title, you're talking about Munoz perhaps with control time. We could see it with Gatto perhaps. I mean, I think this fight kind of, like Joey said, is kind of hard to handicap what's going to go down here. I mean, we just don't kind of think, what the fighters want to do, but what will actually happen, I think, is a harder thing to predict. So your thoughts on this fight, Title?
Yeah, it's definitely a low-level fight, which makes it really hard to handicap, especially since we haven't seen Gatto in so long.
Right.
But what stands out right away in DFS is, the prices. Melissa Gatto's 8,800, whereas Leonardo's 7,400, and it's a coin flip fight now, and that's because Gatto did open as a -150 favorite. The prices were, the prices on DK are an algorithm based on the odds, and they released them earlier in the week. And Leonardo's got steam, so I expect Leonardo to be one of the higher owned fighters on this card. And then you look at it; it's very rare we see a women's flyweight fight at -150 to end inside the distance. Gatto's is +150, Leonardo's +275. So Vegas thinks this fight ends inside the distance, and I do agree. So it's a fight I do want a lot of exposure to. People that are just, looking at it, very basically and not studying a lot are going to look at two women's fights. They're just going to look at, they're probably going to go to decision, blah, 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 and not get exposure to. And I see this fight taking a place on the ground a lot too, what you want. Like you said, Gatto's fine and content on her back, throwing up submissions. So I think Leonardo is going to be on top actually most of the time, maybe shooting for a takedown herself. And then it all depends on, can Gatto get a sub from the bottom? Absolutely, she can. If she doesn't, though, Leonardo's going to rack up a ton of control time, get some significant strikes on top, land the takedowns. And then at 7,400, she's going to score very well, too. I think this is a fight I definitely going to have both sides of. I think Gatto's going to come in a lot lower owned than her chance at the optimal is, just because you got to pay that price tag and the odds are a coin flip. But like you said, Joey said, she submitted Carol Rosa in the first round, and Carol Rosa is definitely way better than Leonardo. I know you can't compare them like apples to apples, but she's beat better competition. Who knows what she's been doing in the past 3 years? Has she been getting better? She did look good at weigh-ins. So many unknowns. So I'm going to get both sides of this fight. And GPPs, though, I think Gatto's definitely going to be lower owned than she should be just because of that price tag. So definitely a fight you want a lot of exposure to. I expect it taking place on the ground a lot, and I'm excited to watch it, even though it is low level.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. We'll see if Gatto can get the job done via submission. If she can, she could potentially score pretty well. Whether that comes early in the fight or later in the fight. If it's later in the fight, she likely has racked up some points there, maybe with control time or some strikes landed. So not a bad fight for the second on the card. And
one more point on FanDuel too. She's $14 and Leonardo's $15, and you also get submission attempts on FanDuel. So Gatto's even a stronger play over there. I expect Gatto to be more popular on FanDuel and Leonardo on DraftKings. And you can play go the opposite way. Sometimes that's a sharp way to do it in tournaments. Get the ownership leverage and get overweight on the different girls on the different sites just based on that. So just wanted to add that in too.
Yeah, the key point there I think to take away is the expectation that this fight might go inside the distance, which you don't really see with women's fights very often. So that's Gatto, Leonardo. Let's move to the next fight on the card: Miles Johns and Anderson dos Santos. John's a relatively big favorite here, sitting around -210, depending on where you look, which book you're using. John's, mostly a striker. I think it's safe to say for him. has a little bit of wrestling, has shown pretty good takedown defense in the UFC against Anderson Dos Santos, who attempts some takedowns but not very successful at them, at least so far. Anderson Dos Santos' striking doesn't look great to me. This one being contested at 135. John's 9 years younger. I don't know. I kind of like Johns to beat him up on the feet a little bit. Joey, your thoughts here?
Yeah, so this is a rebook, as they were supposed to fight a couple weeks ago, and I was on Miles Johns, and I'm going to be on him again here. Yep. He's been pretty impressive in his career. He does have a win over Adrian Yanez, and we've seen how good he is. But he has struggled in his last couple fights. He's the better two on the feet, I think, more technical, and the better wrestler for sure here. Dos Santos, he does move forward, continue to throw. He has some power. He is a BJJ black belt, but he's really struggled in his UFC career. Basically, his only notable win in the UFC is over Martin Day, and unfortunately, he's already been cut from the UFC.
Martin Day is real bad.
So, I mean, I can't hate on Martin Day. The guy came, I got a nice interview out of him, so I'm not going to say anything.
I'll do that.
But, I do think John is probably better everywhere here. The only way I see him losing this fight is if they get into a stand-up war where they're just standing in a pocket and banging, because Dos Santos definitely throws hard, and he can start you. If they're just standing and banging, that's the only way I think John really loses this fight. If that doesn't happen, I think John wins this pretty easy. He via decision, possibly, if he doesn't get him out of there. But I think double chance, maybe lean on John, or you just throw him in a parlay, 2-fighter parlay.
Yeah, I have John's via decision here. I think he's just kind of going to outpoint him on the feet a little bit. I think this one stays standing is my guess. Tyler, your thoughts on Johns and Dos Santos?
Yeah, so like Joey said, this fight was priced at 8,400, 7,800 a couple of weeks ago in DFS, and I heard some people it was minus 170 what I got the number at. Now it's minus 210. They're making you pay more. Wish it was on that card, but I'm on Johns as well. The thing is, now it's 8,900 to 7,300 on DraftKings, and we're talking Johnny Munoz, we're talking Gatto, we'll get to Gane, Menifield. We're talking other fights that are supposed to end inside the distance, and this fight's plus 120 to end inside the distance. So I do think Johns wins, but you have to make stances and get underweight on some of these upper tier guys, and I think a decision is the most likely outcome. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he did knock out Dos Santos. He's 36 years old. He's definitely past his prime, but it's not like Johns throws too much volume. And both guys land 2.66 significant strikes per minute. Johns does have some power. He does have some good wrestling, but 12 of Dos Santos' 21 wins are coming by submission. So does he want to go to the ground and play with fire a little bit there? I think it's going to mainly be on the feet. I hope Dos Santos survives. So I think Johns wins. I'm hoping it's a decision at 8,900. You want more than a decision. So I'm going to be underweight there. And I'm not going to have any Dos Santos. I just don't want too many guys that I think are going to lose in my lineups. And I don't think you win. So
yeah, I'm mostly fading this one for DFS. I think both these guys could underwhelm. Even Johns, if he wins, I don't necessarily see him scoring a huge amount of points unless he's able to finish the fight early, which I think is, at least from my perspective, relatively unlikely. So mostly a fade there for me. I would go Johns if I was picking between the two for DFS purposes. Next fight on the card, Oder Osborne and Manel Cape. Cape actually coming in a pretty big favorite here, minus 200. This one should be fast-paced. One, it's a flyweight bout at 125, so normally those fights are faster paced anyway. Two relatively young fighters, and then Oder Osborne, 7 fights in a row now, has finished in the first round for him, including all 3 of his UFC fights. He's won 2 of those. You don't see that very often. So Joey, your thoughts here? I was a little bit surprised Cape is the biggest favorite as he is, coming off a loss in his last fight. So yeah, your thoughts on these two? I think this one is kind of interesting to break down.
Yeah, so Cape was a former champ at Risen. Since he came over, he lost his 2 UFC fights, both decisions. But the last one, arguably, he won, But that's what happens when you go to the judges, especially in Texas. As someone mentioned in the chat, these Texas judges, I think they're probably more, lenient on the USA fighters. But who knows? And he did miss weight. The only person to miss weight, 3 pounds over. He does have excellent hand speed, is definitely the more technical of the 2 fighters, throws a good amount of volume as well, but he's also very hittable. sometimes he runs in awkwardly, and at one point, Osborne could spark him. With that said, I do think he's more skilled of the two in almost all areas, and he's also never been knocked out. So Odie, this is his first flyweight. This is his flyweight debut. He did make weight, look good on the scale as well. He barely sees the judge's scorecard, as you mentioned. He's finished all but one of his fights.
Yeah.
He throws with a lot of power, and it's pretty damn fast with his punches as well. He mixed in his striking with his wrestling, and he's pretty good on the ground too. End of the day, I think, if Odie doesn't one-punch knockout Cape, he's going to lose this fight. Cape will out-volume him and probably outstrike him on the feet.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a feeling the upset here. So, Tyler, your thoughts on Odie and Cape?
Yeah, this has been a fight that's been tough for me. I mean, they're two similar guys. I mean, I'm really excited to watch it. Osborne has a 5-inch reach advantage in this one. They both have extremely fast hands, crisp boxing, power on the feet. The thing is, both the guys have solid wrestling, but I don't expect either of them to really shoot for takedowns. I expect it mainly to be on the feet. And if it's on the feet, it needs to end inside the distance for it to score well. But yeah, I mean, both guys, every single win they've had except one has been inside the distance. 14 of the 15 for Cape, 8 of the 9 for Osborne. So I think it ends inside the distance. I think these guys are going to be trading leather, throwing bombs in the pocket. At 9K and 7,200, I have interest in this fight for sure. I'm going to have some Osborne at 7,200 as the dog. I think he is very live in this one. But this is also definitely a level, a step down in competition for Cape. I mean, Pantoja is an absolute monster. Last fight, I did think he won. But, I mean, yeah, Mateus Nicolau is also very good. So I think he does get back on track. I mean, he was one of the highest touted prospects coming into the UFC. I mean, people are saying this guy could maybe fight for a title one day. Obviously, it's not looking like that right now. Another thing, with the weight cut, yeah, he missed by 4 pounds, but he didn't look shaky on the scale or looks like any of that. It literally looked like he might have just given up and wanted to be the bigger guy in the fight. Osborne's coming down from 145 to 125, which you don't see that very often at all. I mean, maybe with the reach advantage and something, Kate, he knows he needs to get a win. I mean, that's more important than the money right now. Maybe, this is, who knows if this is right or not, but you got to look into all these things when you see it. And I think Cape eventually does get it done. I think he does finish Osborne actually. But it's really close. I wouldn't be surprised if Osborne does. It's a fight I'm going to have both sides of. The thing is, Cape does fall down the list for me in the upper tier, because if this fight gets to the second round, if this fight gets to the third round, I don't think he's going to be on the optimal lineup. He hasn't thrown the most volume so far in the UFC, but he's easily live for the first or second round finish, which will put him there. So it's a fight I'll have both sides of. It's a close one, but I do think Kate gets it done by knockout eventually.
Yeah, I'm excited for this fight. I guess I'll lean. I'll go the other side there. I think Osborne can go for the upset. I'll have some exposure to him in DFS for sure. But yeah, excited to watch it. I think it's going to be very, very fast paced, and could see a big finish from either fighter, frankly. So excited for that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I just want to jump in here. As Title mentioned, the weight. So I've been around a lot of fighters, and, he probably was smart where he's like, I'm not going to kill myself to lose these extra 4 pounds. I'm just I'll take the paid deduction, and I'll feel much more, I'll feel much more better personally. My body will feel much more better. I'll get rehydrated faster. So rather than kill himself to lose the extra 4 pounds in an hour, 2 hours, whatever, he's just like, I'll go in, dock to 30% of my pay, and I have a much better chance to win.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. So I'm glad you see it that way. It's 20. I think it's 20% too.
How does that work, Joey? Because Osborne has if you miss by that much, or even if you miss it all, the other fighter they have the option to not fight? Do the camps have any contact, or how does that all work?
I'm not sure if they have the option to. They probably do have the option to not fight, or
because sometimes you see fighters miss weight and then the bout gets canceled.
Yeah, most of those times it's like they miss by more than 5 pounds, or something.
4 pounds is kind of a lot for 125.
True. Osborne probably did have the choice to scrap the fight, or you want 30% of his pay or 20% of his pay, whatever. And he's like, you know what, I'll take the pay and I'll go in there and beat him anyway.
Yeah.
Because more than likely Cape is making more than Osborne in the first place.
Sure.
So 30% of his pay added on to his check is probably a nice little paycheck there.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up, you're kind of trying to, I guess, sell the narrative of like, oh, he just gave up, decided he didn't make it, but like it seems like it could be a risky move, right? To know you're going to miss by 4 pounds, and I don't know. So we'll see. I guess I don't really expect that to have too much impact on the fight, but again, excited for that one. We'll see what happens. Not so much excited for the next fight, I must say. Carolina Kolkavich and Jessica Penney, two UFC veterans. This one will likely be a unimpressive striking battle that kind of looks like two old women sparring is kind of what I expect here. So I'm out on this fight. You do have Kolkavich as a -135. I don't know who's going to win. I expect it to go to decision, and I don't expect either of these fighters to score super well for DFS, frankly. So Joey, give us some hot takes here on Penney and Kolkavich.
Yeah, hot take. Fight goes the distance, -350.
Yep.
No, I mean I'm not gonna advise anybody to bet a -350, but sure. that's like a half of a lock, So Carolina, she hasn't fought in over a year and a half. She's on a 4-fight losing streak, taking a lot of damage in those fights as well. But I mean, she did fight some bad bitches, excuse my French, as Derek Lewis would say. She lands a lot of strikes on the feet, and now she gets a 38-year-old Jessica Penney. This will be her second fight since April of 2017. She has a height and reach advantage here. She likes to wrestle, but I think Carolina can limit that. And Carolina, has some pretty good takedown defense. I think, all in all, Carolina probably wins this fight. She's the better fighter of the two. Clearly the odds are somewhat, I guess Carolina, she hasn't been versus a 38-year-old Penney. This is almost a pick 'em. It's kind of disrespectful to Carolina because she was, up there fighting some of the best fighters in the division and some of the best women's fighters. She was up there. Now this is a, slap down in competition, but I think this is going to be ugly. Probably a great time for a refill of your drink.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not going to bet this fight.
No, we see like the striking accuracy of these two fighters, both under 40%, which are really low numbers. So it's like when they're standing like too far away to hit each other, but they're throwing strikes anyway. That's gonna be this one. I'm not excited for this one. Title, what about you?
Yeah, no, I'm not excited. Two old women going at it. I mean, it's 8,300, 7,900. So if you're making a bunch of lineups and a last piece, your script's narrow, you need to add one of these people in for the price, I'm fine. I mean, the path to victory is Kolkavich on the feet. She throws 5.27 or lands 5.27 significant strikes per minute. So maybe she gets 120 significant strikes if she stuffs all the takedowns. And for Penney, her path to victory, I think, is getting the takedowns, laying on her a little top control. But I mean, I like other mid-tier fights more. I like some other dogs more for their upside. So it'd just be a last piece kind of thing to fill your lineup. But I agree with you. I don't think either of these land up on the optimal.
Yeah, it's like Joey said, a good time to refill your drink because it is sandwiched between two good fights. The next one on the card, Alonzo Menifield and Ed Herman. Herman, 3 wins in a row, a little bit of a resurgence for him after a couple losses. In Menifield, his fights are generally relatively short. Average fight time under 5 minutes. You don't see that very often. 2 light heavyweights here. Kind of a little bit of a clash of styles, I would say. Herman more the wrestler, Menifield the power striker who can sometimes gas out a little bit in fights. So this one should be interesting. Menifield coming in at -250 or so at the moment. He's like -120, -130 to win by KO, TKO. So that gives you a good idea of kind of how bettors expect this one to go. Kind of hard to argue with those lines, at least from where I'm coming from. Joey, thoughts on Menifield and Herman?
Yeah, I'm all over Alonzo Menifield here. Yeah. I think he gets Ed out of there early.
So much huge power advantage, right? And I think, I mean, Herman. Herman is 41 years old.
40 years old. 40. He has the same birthday as me.
Is he going to be like fast enough to get Menifield to the ground? I wouldn't think so.
No, I mean, if we go back and watch his last fight, if you remember it all, it's a win on the record, but he lost that fight.
body kick.
Even the UFC knew it. Dana White went and paid out Mike Rodriguez on his win bonus in that fight. Basically, he got kicked in the belly, in the stomach. The ref thought he got kicked in the balls, like stopped it, made him recover, and then eventually in the third round, he goes and gets a submission. He was getting pounded beforehand, and someone with more power would have ended it. And Alonzo Menifield has a lot of power. So if you go back and watch the fight before that, he beat Kragnes Ibrahimov, however you say that. That guy's arguably the worst UFC fighter ever. Like Danilo Marquez made that guy look bad. He isn't the best of strikers, but he'll stand and throw at Herman. And now it's at the end of his career. I think he prefers to get this thing to the ground, try to get a sub in. But Menifield is so strong, it's going to be hard for him to get this fight to the ground. He's big, throws with a lot of power. He does gas out, as you mentioned, but the longer it stays in, the better Herman has chances. But I expect Menifield to go in there and try to get this done early. He should have the grappling edge as well. And Alonzo throws a lot of powerful kicks, too. And if Ed tries to get this ground, as I mentioned, Menifield's probably too strong. So these fights going to stay standing more than likely, and slowly but surely, Menifield will beat him up. If he lands a clean punch, 40-year-old Ed is going down, So rather than lay the big odds with Menifield, I'm going to take him 2 prop-wise. So I'm going to bet him half unit to win via round 1 and a half unit to win via round 2. So Menifield via round 1 plus 200, and that was via FanDuel. And then PointsBet has round 2 plus 540. So I would love to get a round 2 finish, but either or happens and I win money.
I'm with you. That's exactly what I was going to say. Round 1 or round 2, I think Menifield can finish this, and you get you get over twice the payout on the round 2. I think that if I had to make one, it's obviously more likely to lose the bet. But if you're talking just EV, I think the round 2 is where I would go. But yeah, it is real tilting if you bet round 2 win and they finish it in round 1. I'll say that. So you gotta sometimes hedge a little bit. I mean, I think you nailed it. Like Menifield, 85% takedown defense in his career. I just think he's going to be too fast and strong for Herman. Herman gets hit a lot, especially for a light heavyweight, right? Like takes a lot of strikes absorbed. His striking defense isn't very good. This looks like a Menifield onslaught to me. I think Herman's going down in a heap at some point in this fight. Title, your thoughts here? Any disagreement?
No, I totally agree with you guys. I mean, this is one of the fights, sometimes, very rarely in MMA, but sometimes you can just look at both of the guys when they're walking out and you can be like, this is just a mismatch. I mean, Herman went to the ground. Menifield's strength alone and speed alone, athleticism alone is not going to let Herman get it to the ground. And then once Herman feels Menifield's hands, it's gonna be good night, I think. I don't even see it getting past 5 minutes. But I was going to say the same bet as Joey, FanDuel, plus 200 round 1. I definitely think there's some value there. And then, I totally get the round 2 if he does. But I think it's Menifield. I think it's the same way as how Menifield's last fight goes against Charant, where, he pretty much just stormed in. He caught him, and he finished it pretty closely. 40-year-old Ed Herman, 3-fight winning streak is very deceiving, as Joey talked about. I think this is going to be an early finish. Menifield's one of my favorite pay-ups. Him, Johnny Munoz, and then we'll get there later, Cyril Gane. But I think those 3, you want at least probably 2 in your lineup in every single lineup you make. So, no Herman for me. I know some people are going to go there. It's minus 300 to end inside the distance. So some people are going to try and get both sides of it. I just don't see Herman winning. His path is surviving the first 2 rounds, having Menifield gas. But, who says Ed Herman at 40 years old has really good gas tank either? So
I thought Herman actually looked a little bit out of shape in the lands.
He looked bad. I agree.
Which
at 40 years old, it's got to be hard as hell to
listen. He's in better shape than me, so I'm not coming at him too hard. But for a UFC fight, and I'll tell you who's not out of shape is Alonzo Menifield. So I think his power is going to be too much. Let's move on to the next fight: Draco Rodriguez and Vince Morales. This one, another one that's very, very close to a pick'em. Depending on where you look, maybe you can get a guy at plus 110 or something. But it's supposed to be a pretty even fight. Both these fighters are coming off a loss in their last fight. Morales actually two losses in a row. Rodriguez, I don't know that much about him. He looks like both his fights were very short in the UFC, so we really don't have much film on him, at least in the UFC. He's the younger fighter. He has been kind of a takedown specialist, a little bit, a wrestling, a grappler, a bunch of takedowns, or a significant amount of takedowns in his short time in the UFC. So yeah, Joey, maybe you know more about these fighters than I do. I kind of lean Draco Rodriguez, but again, not an expert on either of these two. So talk to me about Rodriguez and Morales.
Yeah, so Draco opened at plus 155 underdog. Now the line is almost even, so a lot of money came in on Draco. He hasn't fought the best competition thus far, and is shown in his first UFC fight. He does throw a decent amount of volume. He's very unpredictable on the feet. Probably the better boxer of the two, but his wrestling is somewhat in question, including his wrestling takedown defense, which isn't very good. And Morales, he jumps back to bantamweight here. He's fought in, I think, 3 different weight classes. He is the better wrestler. Boxing, probably somewhat a toss-up with a lean Draco. But Morales isn't a slouch there either. He's off 2 straight losses, including and then after his last loss, he did tore his Achilles as well. He definitely needs to check his leg kicks, because the last fight was a big problem. He almost, broke his leg. I don't even think he, checked 1 or 2 kicks. He was getting beat up. But if he wants to chain wrestle, I think he can. I think the odds are probably correct. This should be a pick'em. Nothing official here, but I do lean with a more experienced UFC fighter in Vince Morales.
Okay. Yeah. Title, your thoughts here. Both guys kind of in that mid-tier price tag. Rodriguez, 8,400. Morales, 7,800. I'm not super excited about this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this one is tough because it's minus 105 to finish his side of the distance. It was pretty much a coin flip. Joey touched on, pretty much their career. I did think Vince Morales did beat Benito Lopez. Another one I kind of disagreed with the judges on, but I mean, that happens. And then, last fight, he didn't check any leg kicks. Gutierrez, I mean, he's very, very good. His leg kicks are very good, but he didn't check any and just got absolutely dominated. I think Vince Morales has a little more power on the feet. And Draco Rodriguez, he's finished 57% of his fights coming by submission. Vince Morales doesn't have the best takedown defense, but his get-up game seems to be really good. I don't think Draco is going to be able to hold him down for a long period of time. If anything, he maybe will be able to take his back. I just think Vince Morales has more paths to victory in this one, and I'm getting a $600 price difference on DraftKings. If I'm playing 20 lineups, 150 lineups like I always do. So I'm going to have both sides of this fight in the mid-tier, but I'm going to have more Morales because I do think it's a coin flip fight. I think Morales does have a little more power, and that 600 does go a long way. So that's my lean in this fight, but it's not a strong one.
Fair enough. Next fight on the card, Bobby Green and Rafael Fiziev. This one should be a good one, I think. Fiziev's been impressive, 3 wins in a row. Bobby Green, if you've been following the UFC, you've seen him fight a number of times. You never know quite what to expect with Bobby Green. Kind of something questionable, I think, fight IQ, but does throw a lot of volume, lands a lot, decent striker. But I do think Fiziev, the younger guy, 7 years younger, I think he's kind of on the ascension. Bobby Green, probably not so much. Joey, your thoughts on these two?
I mean, I think Fiziev is good, but these odds, minus 300, I mean,
too high.
Personally, I like Bobby Green. The dude always brings it. He's very, very tough. 9 straight decisions. Out of his 39 pro fights, he's only been KO once versus Dustin Poirier back in 2016. He's a solid boxer. He continues to switch stances. He's a very good wrestler as well. And he always looks to get the fight to the ground. I think he can have some success if he gets the fight there. He's definitely fought the better competition of the two. But as of late, he really, hasn't beat anyone of notice. His last 3 wins, not the best competition. But Fiziev is really good, better in the earlier rounds. Very solid boxer, very fast hands. There's a lot of combinations. I expect him to mix in some kicks as well. And Bobby has sometimes shown he doesn't check kicks. So Fiziev has been susceptible to getting hit. He did get hit by, if you go back and watch the KZ fight, Alex White fight, which I did, they did have some success hitting Fiziev. How good is his takedown defense? That's, what I don't know. Not many fighters have attempted a takedown versus Fiziev, and, this could really be the outlier here because, Bobby Green's going to attempt a takedown or 2. If this fight stays standing for 15 minutes, Fiziev probably wins via decision. But more than likely, I see Bobby winning round 3 because he wants it more and he'll continue to move forward. So at minus 300, you want to be sweating a decision? I personally don't. So it's dog or pass here for me.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I was a little surprised the knockout odds. You've got Fiziev sitting around plus 170-ish to win by KO, which is seems like a fairly likely result, or at least that's what the odds are implying. And then Bobby Green, you can get him at like plus 800 or so to win via KO, which seems I don't know, little enticing. Tyler, your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I'm on Fiziev in this one. I think his striking, if people haven't watched him strike, his striking is next level. He mixes up.
Looks clean, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's very clean. I mean, mixes up all three levels, throws a lot of good combination, has fast hands. And his last fight against Moicano really impressed me. I mean, that's where his takedown defense, yeah, he hasn't really been tested too much. We'll know a lot more. But he stuffed a takedown against Moicano, and he had a combination he took. Moicano shot for the takedown, and he has a really low base anyway, and he shrugged it off right away, reverse position, and then just went back to standing. So I do think his takedown defense is good, and I think his striking is just on another level in this one. I think it'll be on another level to most guys he fights. I agree. I mean, I wouldn't bet minus 300, any of that. Bobby Green's always game. He's always fun to watch. He hasn't been knocked out. He's only been knocked out once, and that is against Dustin Poirier. I wouldn't be shocked if this was his second knockout loss, actually. I'm a lot higher on Fiziev. I think that, I mean, a lot of people are high on him, but I'm very high on him as well. I just think his striking's next level, and I think he's going to attack the legs early and often of Bobby Green, which is going to reduce his movement, and then eventually he'll mix it up high. So I'm on Fiziev in this one, but at 9,300, this is where you're getting to decisions. I think Munoz and Menifield have a better chance for a higher score and an earlier finish. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Fiziev got. I mean, he just knocked out Moicano, who's better than Bobby Green in my opinion, and he knocked him out in the first round. But at the end of the day, you got to make decisions. I think I like Menifield more. I like Munoz more. I like Gane more. So if I'm making 150 in my 150, I'll have some. If you're only making a couple lineups, it'd be a fight fade for me. Hoping. I mean, Bobby Green's durable for sure, so hoping it does go to decision. And even if Bobby Green does win a decision, I mean, I don't think he throws. I mean, it's takedowns. If he does, he gets the takedowns, gets the top control. He would score fine. I think the takedown defense is good. So if he wins a decision on the feet, that could even be a 60-point decision. And even at 6,900, I like other dogs that'll score more. So I'm not going to have any Bobby Green. Maybe in 150, I'll get a little if Joey's talking. He likes it. But I think Fiziev gets it done on the feet. Maybe a decision, maybe a knockout. That I don't know as much, but hoping a second or third round knockout, because then, I mean, Menifield and Munoz would outscore him.
Yeah, that's fair. I do have a little bit of interest in Bobby Green. I'll have some exposure to him in my lineups on DraftKings. Just, I mean, he's had multiple takedowns in 5 straight fights, so he can get takedowns, he can get control time, and he throws a lot of volume too. So I do see a path to Green, even in a decision, you know, especially at 6,900, right? Because there are some expensive fighters to fit in there. So I guess I'll disagree a little bit from a DFS perspective. I do expect Fiziev to win this fight, but I think Green has a path here at least to a decent DraftKings score. Let's go to the main card. We're going to start off with a lightweight bout, I think. No, bantamweight bout between Song Yadong, Casey Kenny, 2 UFC veterans here, both coming off a loss. And these two have, if you just look at the numbers, which, you know, I think MMA more so than any other sport is kind of watch the tape and overlook at the numbers, but extremely similar striking stats. And they both have obviously a pretty decent sample size in the UFC, both in terms of, you know, strikes landed, strikes absorbed, striking defense, accuracy. They're almost identical. So this one is expected to be close. No surprise there. Kenny coming in a very, very small favorite, right around minus 125-ish, depending on where you look. This one seems like it's going to be a close fight to me, Joey. Kenny, Yadong, your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is going to be a real good one, possibly fight of the night. Somewhat reminds me of Yadong versus Cody Stamann fight. You know, these are both pretty damn good strikers, and Song probably throws the harder of the punches. He's the better boxer, in my opinion. He probably has the better gas tank of the two as well, but Casey's a very good wrestler. He should have some success if he tries to get it to the ground. I think he could easily win the grappling exchanges if he decides to go that route, but his cardio is definitely somewhat in question, and he easily gets roped into these boxing wars. And I listened to one of his interviews, and he said, you know, he's been working with Sean O'Malley and whatnot, and he wants to be, you know, this highlight reel guy. But rather than, you know, he should just go in there and just try to win the fight. And if this stays 15 minutes on the feet, Song Yadong probably wins this fight. So if Casey can successfully get 2 or 3 takedowns, he should win, I think. But I keep going back and forth on this one, so nothing official. I guess slight lean to Song Yadong.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I just don't know which way this one is going to go. Title, do you have a strong opinion on Yadong and Kenny?
No, I mean, it's like Joey read the playbook. I mean, everything at first thing I said, I think this is going to be fight of the night. I mean, this is going to be an absolute banger. And I say, yeah, I mean, on the feet, I think Yadong has more power. I like Casey Kenny's leg kicks. I like how, I mean, he's still a very, very good striker. Both land pretty solid volume at 4.92 significant strikes. The thing is, yeah, like I mentioned, I mentioned the playbook, 57% takedown defense for Song Yadong. And Casey Kenny has solid wrestling, but does he use it in this fight? I mean, that's the big thing, I think, like Joey said, that's going to determine it. If he does mix in his wrestling and use it, he'll score really well in DFS in a win with the top control, with the takedowns. I expect output on the feet. But if he doesn't, I think Song Yadong is going to get the better of some of these exchanges. Possibly if someone knocks out someone, I think it'll be Song Yadong knocking out Casey Kenny. And then we have seen Kenny slow the later the fight goes on. So I think he needs to mix in the takedowns, use his grappling, and then make him on. And then on the feet, then he's worried about the takedowns, and he can mix in the leg kicks, the body shots more. So I expect a really good fight, but DraftKings priced it at 8,200 and 8,000. So that's a fight that's easy to get both sides exposure to. I'm probably going to have more Casey Kenny. I think I do think he does mix in the wrestling a little bit, the takedowns, which we know score well, but it's a very close fight. I'd be lying to you if I said I had a strong lead.
Yeah, we're all kind of on the same page there, where we do expect a good close fight. Should be an entertaining one for sure. I think it's the fight leading off the pay-per-view for a reason. Usually see those fights be pretty high action, so should be a good one to watch at least. Angela Hill and Tecia Torres next. Both fighters coming off of wins. Both fighters, again, veteran UFCs. They've both got a number of fights so far in the organization. This one I think will probably stay on the feet. Should be, I think, a lot of strikes landed in this one would be my guess. But I do think this one is pretty likely to go the distance. To me, this is just kind of almost like just a higher level version of the Penney Kolkavich fight, where it'll be, I think, somewhat entertaining for a women's fight, but I don't really have a interest in betting this one. Maybe would go with the dog, Angela Hill, just because I think it's more of a toss-up perhaps than the line implies. Torres sitting around minus 140 to minus 150. Joey, thoughts on Torres and Angela Hill here?
Yeah, before that, hit the like button. We got almost 150 people in here, 40 likes. What are you guys doing? We're giving out 3 winners. Yeah. All right. So, but Tecia Torres, Angie Hill. So basically, I don't know if you watch the press conference or not, but basically these two are yelling at each other. Little tension here. This is a rematch from 2015 in which Tecia won a decision. She's definitely, Tecia probably fought the better competition of two. She is 2-4 her last 6, but her losses were to Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jacek, Weili Zhang, Marina Rodriguez, who are all top fighters in the UFC. Some of the best girls in their weight class. And Ticia's a very good wrestler, solid boxer. She likes a close range, box in the pocket. And she should have some success if she gets this to the ground. But I know Angie has been robbed in the last couple of her fights. She's very tough. Another fighter who doesn't shy away from banging in the pocket. She has a 4-inch reach advantage, 2-inch height advantage here, and probably throws the more volume of the two. If this fight stays standing for the full 15, it's going to be another close, very, very close decision. And slight lean towards Andy Hill at the plus money. But I got to give my guy Keg a shout out. He has, definitely the best look that I've seen. He has Hill Torres fight to end by split or majority decision plus 250.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that's a great look. Yeah,
I like that.
That's a good sweat. You're just hoping for the close fight and the split decision. I was going to say this one does feel like a split decision. If if you're on either fighter, you're going to be waiting. You're going to be watching that TV closely, waiting for the judges' scores, which is always a super fun sweat to have. Title, thoughts on Torres and Hill here?
Yeah, you look at the prices. It's 8,700 for Torres, 7,500 for Hill. There's no way I'm paying 8,700 for Tecia Torres in this spot. That's going to go to decision. So that's the easiest of the fades. And then, for Angela Hill, as Joey mentioned, Hill lands 5.66 significant strikes per minute, while Torres lands 4.3. So if this does stay in the fight and Angela Hill can stuff the takedowns, it's going to be a 15-minute striking affair where Angela Hill should land more strikes. Who knows what the judges are going to do? And that's another reason, it's going to be in the hands of the Houston judges, which you never want to see in this one. Angela Hill probably gets robbed again. That's the story of her career. But at 7,500, I'll have some as the dog. If we get a very favorite heavy card and we get 11 or almost 12 favorites that win, and she's the one dog, I mean, even a 70-point favorite or a 70-point decision win for Angela Hill at 7,500 could be enough depending on how the other fights go. So I'll have some. I'm not going to have a ton because I don't love her upside. I don't see her knocking her out. It'd just be a decision win. But at that price tag, it gets you the upper tier that we like. So I'll have some, but not a ton.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Not going to be a lot of exposure to Hill or Torres and DFS for me. Next fight on the card, good one here, Michael Chiesa and Vicente Luque. Kind of a little bit of a clash of styles here. Chiesa, very, very strong wrestling. 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes, a lot of control time. Not a lot of volume of striking, more of the wrestling type, but he's certainly gotten it done. 4-fight winning streak, including over some pretty impressive names for Chiesa. And then Luque, 3-fight winning streak himself, beat Tyron Woodley in that last fight. That was a kind of a crazy fight that one was. Woodley came out just firing out of the gate and eventually got caught by Luque. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I'm really excited to hear your guys' kind of breakdown of this one because I'm not sure. I kind of lean Chiesa and the wrestling, but Luque is a dangerous man himself. So, Joey, your thoughts on Chiesa and Luque here?
Yeah, P-Rod Fresh asking for the promo code RPS NFL 15% off monthly payments for life. So there you go, buddy. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is tale of two styles. You know, we know what we're going to get from Chiesa: a grind game plan. You know, he goes into every fight with a game plan. He uses his striking basically to set up his wrestling and grappling. Do somewhat the same thing he did to Neil Magny and Rafael Dos Anjos, you know, make the fight boring by continuing to try to get it to the ground, try to grind out a submission. I think he can have some success here if he does that. Luque isn't the best wrestler. His takedown defense isn't great, but Luque clearly the better striker of the two, and he has some real power. And he's pretty technical on his feet as well. You know, he continues to use his kicks to set up his boxing, close the gap. Plus, he's a finish machine. 18 of his 20 wins via finish. And I think Luque does enough to keep this fight standing long enough for him to touch up Mikey Chiesa on the feet and probably gets a finish. So I'm interested in Luque inside distance plus 260-ish.
Luque seems like he has pretty good chokes, right? If you look at his resume, a lot of wins via different types of chokes. Joe, is there a chance Luque can catch Chiesa coming in shooting for a takedown?
Yeah, it could be, you know, possibly, you know, ground and pound, or he knocks him to the ground, then gets in a rear naked choke, you know. So that's why I'm just taking inside the distance rather than be a KO.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Tyler, your thoughts here? Luque coming in 8,500, Chiesa, the cheaper fighter, despite being a very, very slight favorite at 7,700. A lot of control time for Chiesa over these last few starts. I could see him racking up a big score if he's able to, if the fight goes his way, right? It's going to be either a finish or probably a lot of time on top, throwing some ground and pound and all that stuff.
Yep, I 100% agree. Couldn't have said it better. I think it's going to, if Luque can stuff the takedowns and keep it at range, he's going to pick apart Chiesa and then eventually finish him. If he can't, though, the thing I love about Michael Chiesa is he knows what he's good at, and he doesn't pretend he's good at striking. He goes, every fight, he goes and he shoots early, shoots often. He keeps it, very close quarters, so he can't absorb a lot of shots. He absorbs under 2 significant strikes per minute. And he just gets it to the ground. 3.6 takedowns per 15 minutes he's landed. His last 4 fights, he's landed 4, 6, 5, and 4 takedowns, all with very big DFS scores. And I think he does it again. My lean is Chiesa in this fight. I think he goes and closes the distance early, gets Luque to the ground, and he has very, very good top control when he's down there, very good wrestling. It's a very close fight, but it's a fight that you want exposure to in DFS, and I want a strong lean on this fight since, like, the Kenny Yadong fight I'm kind of torn on. So this is the fight I do want a lean on, and I'm going to have a good amount more Chiesa than I am Luque, thinking he can get it to the ground. We know if he does win, even a decision win, it should be a very, very high-scoring decision win at 7,700. So give me Chiesa in this one. If you're making 20 lineups or 150, though, you'd be a fool not to have any Luque because, as Joey said, I mean, if he does keep this fight on the feet, he should have his way all day. I love watching. Every Luque fight's fun to watch, but can Chiesa get it to the ground and make it boring? We'll see. Either way, in DFS, it should be a fun fight. Give me Chiesa at 7,700, though.
Yeah, I lean Chiesa as well, but Joey, sounds like you're a little bit interested in Luque, and should be a good one. I'm excited to watch that one for sure. Excited to watch the next one too. Two kind of older fighters in Jose Aldo and Pedro Munoz. They're actually were born just 2 days apart. So kind of interesting note there. Aldo coming off a win over Vera. Actually, both these fighters coming off a win. Both kind of were struggling a little bit before that, but both of these guys have faced, kind of the tops of their divisions. I think, at least for me, the jury's kind of out on how much these guys have left. I kind of think people were writing off Jose Aldo a little bit after that loss to Peter Yan, but he looked pretty good in his last fight, I thought. Even against Yan, I thought he looked okay until he kind of gassed, kind of in the middle of the fight. So I don't know. I think, you look at like the weigh-in photos and man, Aldo just looks so strung out and he just looks so old, but he's not that old, and we'll see. So this one should stay on the feet. I think we'll see a lot of volume of strikes, and I could see one of these guys going down, via KO. I think Aldo's got the better chance early to do that, and perhaps the fight kind of swings Munoz's way a little bit if it goes deeper into the fight. Joey, do you see it that way? And do you have a strong lean Aldo Munoz? Again, this fight, pretty much a pickup. You can kind of go either way here.
Yeah, so I think Aldo's a better boxer of the two.
Yeah.
He's obviously much faster on his feet. And very good at BJJ and grappling too, but he hasn't shown to really use it as of late.
I don't think we're going to see much of that this fight, honestly.
Yeah. And he has obviously shown to slow down in the later rounds, especially in his last 4 fights. Round 3 was lost in almost all of them. Obviously, you're talking about his title fight, but that was also 5. He fought 5 rounds in there. So by the 4th round, he's gassed. This guy can't fight 5 rounds anymore.
Right.
Munoz, decent boxer himself. He has definitely a lot of power, but he's very slow throwing his punches. He doesn't move much. He prefers to stand, keep it in the pocket. He does throw a lot of leg kicks, can have some success there, but especially as the fight goes on. But once the second round comes and goes, I think Munoz will definitely have the better gas tank of the two, probably wins round 3. So this could be another greasy decision here. I definitely lean Aldo, but nothing official from me.
Yeah, I think I kind of like Aldo a little bit inside the distance, and Munoz to win via decision is kind of how I see this one. Title, your thoughts, Aldo Munoz?
Yeah, I mean, so the price is Aldo's 8,600, Munoz is 7,600. So right there in a close fight that's supposed to go to decision, I already am leading Munoz. But the more I dove in, I mean, as you guys said, the longer the fight goes, Aldo has faded for sure. 3rd round, I mean, he beat Chito Vera. He was gas. I mean, he won the 1st round, looked very good. 2nd round, he lost. In the 3rd round, I mean, he was smart. He used his smartness. He got the takedown. He backpacked him for 5 minutes. He wasn't going to win that decision if he kept it on the feet. Good for Aldo. I had him in that fight, so it helped me. But, I mean, I don't think this fight really does go to the ground. And if it does, I actually give the grappling edge to Pedro Munoz. And then on the feet, I mean, you look at the volume. Munoz throws 5.6 significant strikes per minute to Aldo's 3.29. So that right there, Munoz, I expect him to outstrike him. And then the leg kicks. I mean, both these guys are going to throw really good kicks. It's going to be a banger in the pocket. But Munoz absolutely destroyed Jimmy Rivera's leg last time out. He looked really good. I was impressed. At the $1,000 discount, I mean, Pedro Munoz has never been finished in any of his fights. All 5 losses have all gone to decision. He's durable. Give me Pedro Munoz in this fight for betting and for DFS. I think if someone gets a finish, I do see it being Munoz. And I think the volume and the later it goes, the advantage is his. So give me Munoz at 7,600.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that one. Hopefully we get a good performance out of Aldo and Munoz. That brings us to the main event, the big boy fight, Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis. This one should be interesting, I think. Gane coming in, he's undefeated, 9-0. It's been kind of on a tear, a lot of decision wins, which you don't often see at heavyweight. And then obviously you guys know who Derek Lewis is. Man, plus 270 for Derek Lewis. It's enticing. Cyril Gane, though, obviously has super impressive. I think he's good everywhere. You could argue he's better than Derek Lewis everywhere. But Lewis, he'll pull some upsets out of the hat for sure. So I'm excited for this one. I hope it's not a kind of a boring, Gane outpoints him for 5 rounds. I do think that's certainly in play. Joey, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm a Derek Lewis guy. I met the guy back in 2016, his first time headlining a UFC card. Obviously, he knocked I forgot the guy's name, but he knocked him out in the 4th round. And, I mean, how can you not like the Black Beast? The guy makes you laugh either by what he says, what he does. Plus, he's a knockout freak. Can knock out anybody anytime. With that said, I think this fight actually may be a little boring. You know, I see these two very hesitant to throw, especially the first round. I could see them standing around the whole first round. And obviously, Gane, the more technical fighter of the two, he moves a lot, switches stances, very light on his feet, which, you know, you don't really normally see for a heavyweight. He goes in and out much faster than Derek. He has very good cardio, and he's a decent wrestler if need be. He should be able to take Derek down. But Derek's a brawler. His game plan is simple. He wants to keep the fight standing, land that one knockout punch. He is definitely the more powerful puncher of the two, and he somehow always gets back up to his feet after getting taken down. He's pretty damn durable, has fight a good amount of 5-round fights in him. Definitely the better competition of the two. I did watch an interview, and Derek said, he actually trained the most he's ever trained this camp. That's got to be a positive. The fight is in his hometown of Houston, Texas. You already know the fans are going to be rooting for him. More than likely, the judge will be a little biased to him. He's a 3-1 underdog in his fight, same as he was the last fight where he knocked out Curtis Blades in the 2nd round. That means the applied probability of Gane winning is almost 80%. So he's going to win 80 out of 100 fights. I mean, I think that's way too much. Probably wins about 65, 70% of fights, not 80. So I'm sorry, with a guy with Derek Lewis, you can't be 80% probability. So the line is dog or pass for me. On a betting perspective, it's dog or pass for me. But I'll probably, maybe put a couple shekels on Derek, but not nothing crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching these fights, it's just fun to have a few bucks on Derek Lewis, right? As a big underdog, you're cheering for the knockout. So yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I just think this line is a little bit too high. Title, I get the sense that maybe you think Cyril can control this fight. Your thoughts on the two heavyweights?
Yeah, I've been on Cyril Gane. I mean, from the beginning. I said last time against Volkov, when a lot of people were on Volkov, it was a big step up in competition. I said we wouldn't see a line like this on Gane. I mean, I got him like -140. I said we wouldn't see a line on Gane like this until he fights Francis. I just think this guy's the real deal. I mean, his striking is you don't see it like this in the heavyweight division. He broke the heavyweight record, landing 135 significant strikes last time against Volkov. I mean, he beat him from start to finish, just absolutely dominated him. Yeah, I mean, Derek Lewis, he's 100% always. He's in the fight, or he's losing the fight till he's not losing the fight, is how Derek Lewis fights go. I just think Gane, I mean, on the feet, how he manages distance, how he mixes up the kicks and all three, I mean, to the body, to the head, to the calf. His jab is very, very good. I think that'll keep Derek Lewis at range. I think he can get the takedown if he wants it. He has to be careful. I mean, that's how Curtis Blades got caught going in. He had the uppercut. But I just think in all phases of this fight, Cyril Gane's way better. And I think the damage is actually going to add up. And I think he does finish Derek Lewis at some point. I'm very high on Gane. I think him against Francis, I still don't even know my lean in that one. I know I'm looking a little ahead, but I think they're the two best heavyweights for sure. So, and betting, yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't bet -365. I would take Cyril Gane inside the distance. And if you're betting Derek Lewis, I would take him by KO or inside the distance as well, because I don't see him winning a decision. You can get another +100 on top of that. So I'll have no Derek Lewis. I like making stands in the main events. People are going to play Derek Lewis. I mean, just regardless, he has the knockout power. But give me Cyril Gane. The thing in DFS is, though, there's a path where he wins a decision, as we saw last time. He scored 85 against Volkov and 94 against Rosenstruck. Both went to decision. If the fight just stays standing and goes to decision the whole time, he probably won't be on the optimal. Menifield will probably outscore him. Munoz will probably outscore him. But I do think he does end up getting the finish, so I'm going to have a lot of Gane.
I'll have exposure to both those guys, but I will also have teams that don't have either, which I think is rare for, I almost always have the main event, one or fighter or the other. And even especially in a heavyweight fight, right? Usually you think that's going to be a finish, but Gane is kind of a unique heavyweight where it looks like he's going to win. I mean, we'll see going forward. He's going to have to fight Francis if he wins this one, but or maybe we'll see with John Jones, but a lot of fights could be kind of boring decisions. So I think this is one where for DFS purposes, you can fade it. I will say, another strategy for betting this fight could be live betting it, because Derek Lewis, like you mentioned, Title, a lot of his fights, it seems like he's losing, and then he pulls the rabbit out of his hat, right, with the big power and gets the knockout. So listen, if this fight makes it to round 2, I think it probably will. It's almost certainly going to be Gane that looks the better fighter. He's probably going to win pretty clear round 1. And, you know, the plus 270 that you can get on Derek Lewis after a Gane, you know, kind of not dominant, but just a clear round 1 Gane win. You could maybe get in plus 500 or plus 600 or something on Derek Lewis after round 1 or round 2 where Gane looks like the better fighter. But we know Derek Lewis kind of the comeback king a little bit for the heavyweight division. So I think that could be an interesting angle to approach the fight. Joey, back to you for Gane and Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I said all I wanted, really. You know, I think this is pretty simple. You know, Derek Lewis is, you know, a guy, he's made a lot of comments where he's like, you know, I'm never going to be the most athletic. I'm never going to be the most skilled fighter, but I just keep getting it done. And, you know, the freaking guy it's true. Like, he was even that Rosenstruck fight, right? He was losing the whole fight until the last 5 seconds and knocks him out. So you never could count the dude out. And I think if Gane wins, it's probably via decision. I'm kind of different than Title here. I think he probably just, you know, tries to stay at distance to try to outpoint him for 5 rounds. Maybe in the 4th or 5th, but I think, like, this is definitely going to the 4th. If Derek Lewis doesn't starch him in the first 3, this is going to go to the 4th, and maybe slowly but surely Gane, you know, starts outpointing him and starts going heavy and trying to get a finish. But I don't know, man.
I mean, Gane's proven that he is happy to win a clear decision, right? Like,
yeah, especially if it means his next fight's going to be a title chance.
That's what I'm saying.
Why would you rush in there versus Derek Lewis?
He's not going to. He's a smart fight. I mean, he shouldn't, right? He's smart not to. But you're not going to see him desperate for a finish in the 5th round. If he's up 4 rounds to 0, I mean, he's just going to keep him at bay. You know, maybe he'll use a little bit of wrestling, try to neutralize Lewis's power, as he should. But I'm with you. I think Gane, a decision, perhaps a somewhat boring decision. I could see some boos in this one in the 5th round if Gane's kind of clearly outpointing him, right? Like you mentioned, Derek Lewis's hometown. So I kind of see the fight going that way. But again, I will have exposure to both in my own MMA lineups. Title, I'll throw it to you. Final thoughts, Gane, Lewis, or anything else on this card?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get a little different opinions on a couple of them. I mean, I think you and I all 3 of us are lockstep again for the most part. So we've had a lot of success on most of these shows. I hope Gane gets it done inside the distance for me. I love his technical striking. I think the damage ends up. I really want to see Francis Gane because I think they are the 2 best heavyweights in the world. And I mean, how much fun that would be. So Derek Lewis is always live. It's going to be a great main event. And we have a lot of good fights on this card, as we talked about. So hopefully the judges don't mess anything up and swing too much money today. That's literally the only downside of this sport. MMA is so fun, such a great sport. And the 3 morons sitting cage sides, octagon sides sometimes mess it up. But 13 fights, excited to watch them and hopefully make some money.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, we do these every pay-per-view, and it's going to be a while before our next pay-per-view. So maybe we'll jump on one for one of the smaller cards over the next few weeks or so. Again, thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Check out Run Pure Sports. We've got Title's Playbook. We've got Joey's official plays up on runpuresports.com. And if you want to join the movement, you can use promo code RPSNFL15. That will get you 15% off your monthly payment for life. And we're kind of an all-encompassing site, so there won't be any upcharges, anything like that. So join us over at runpuresports.com. For Joey, for Titletown, I'm DC. We'll check you next time.
Good luck.